Welcome back to Junction 119. This is Kellan.
This is Casen.
It has been a while, bro. Do you realize it has been like a month since our last show, almost?
Yeah, it's been quite some time.
I sincerely apologize to those. I did again have another situation where someone was asking me when our next show was, and I was like, "Look, if you don't hear from Kason or I, we're sorry, but a little thing called life happens. Kason, you've been away. I've been
hmm
away. Some things have come out that we are going to talk about primarily today. We are going to, and I'm just going to flat out say on here, the Marvel cover is going to be the cover for this show because we're going to definitely just dive into many
Yep.
things Marvel. We're going to review Captain America Brave New World, which is like a month old now. We're going to talk about some animated projects, and then we're going to wrap up the show, today's show, talking about episodes 1 and 2 of no, I almost said this, Daredevil Born Again. Another title with a B
hmm
to start after the main title of the Marvel character. But we
First,
begin we begin today's show with that banner behind me, Bowling Green,
yeah, I
and that
Bowling
hat on
Green,
your
of
head.
course. Well, we left the when we left off the show the last time. Uh, Scott Leffler was the head coach of Bowling Green football, and in the time we were gone, he decided to take the quarterback job with the Philadelphia Eagles, the Super Bowl champ Philadelphia Eagles. So good for him. Probably a less stressful job.
Thank you, Scott
So
Leffler. Appreciate you.
yeah,
Seriously.
I mean he managed to rescue the program from, the basement of the conference and kind of got us back on the track of being a real program again. So thanks for everything and good luck with your
And
next
dude,
endeavors,
he was
Kelly.
at Bowling Green a long time. Like he started before
Yeah,
COVID, so 6 years. I mean, it's been a long time.
yeah.
So
In today's football, that's a long time to be at a group of five school.
absolutely. But what's today's news? Literally today.
Yeah.
We're recording this
So
on Sunday, March 9th. It'll be March 10th before you hear this.
I think the first thing I really heard of the rumors of this was yesterday, I think. There
Literally
were
Saturday.
rumblings coming out that there was a dark horse finalist with and then late last night we had heard the news that an offer was extended to Ohio State legendary running back Eddie George, who is the head coach of Tennessee State. And it came out this morning that he accepted the offer, and official. Eddie George is the next head coach at Bowling Green State University. Uh, Absolutely insane. I mean, absolutely insane.
Absolutely, and it's crazy. I literally just pulled up his Wikipedia page. It's already got the orange and brown like
Yeah.
on it. I'm like, man, this is so quick when people do this. Edward Nathan George Jr., obviously, Ohio State legend, Heisman Trophy winner, right? He's
Yep.
one of like five
hmm
Heisman
Number
Trophy winners.
27 retired.
Number 27 retired. He went on to have a fantastic career in the NFL. I think a friend of the show, Matt, sent us the Madden cover. I forgot he was on the cover of Madden, man. I was like, oh,
hmm
yeah, the Titans were like cool back then. Um, yeah.
Actor, performer on stage and screen.
Yeah, I didn't see that. Didn't see that.
He was in Chicago on Broadway for a period of time. Um,
He's also, this is another thing. Eddie George, incredible story. I mean, his mother sent him to military school. Like he had a whole success story of young black men doing great things. He himself has just been a model guy. And by the way, he got an MBA at Northwestern. Like
yeah.
Eddie George is a very smart dude. So like he went from Ohio State to Northwestern after he was done playing and everything. So and he's done a fantastic job down at Tennessee State. And interestingly enough, Cason, like I never necessarily interacted with that program at all, but I was at Gardner Webb when we played. They're in the same
hmm
conference, at least the Big South OVC. So the game against him was real tough. I believe they beat us the year I was there, if I'm not mistaken. We went there. Yeah, they beat us. It was like a one of those like last minute like wins. And I was like, man, these guys are good. And what's interesting about that program also, for those who don't know, their home stadium is the Titan Stadium. So like it was cool when he got that job because he's beloved there,
Yeah.
still.
Yeah.
He's been there for 3 seasons, has done a great job coaching there. Now he's returning to the state of Ohio, which is not where he's from. He's from Philadelphia originally, but he's an Ohio,
hmm
obviously legend now. It's home
Yeah.
now. Yeah, he returns to Ohio to become
I
BSU's head
I
coach.
I
Yeah.
just anecdotal evidence or just anecdotal thing about me living here in the Columbus area.
Mhm.
I saw the news come in from I think it was Pete Thamel last night that the offer was extended, and I was sitting in a Columbus area Buffalo Wild Wings with an Eddie George jersey right next to me on the wall. Uh, so yeah, that's just what it's like here. I mean, so it's a big story here, and nationally as well because he's also been around media. He's well known in the landscape. So
Not
a
only
lot of
that, but
people
like
are.
all of the like, and that was one of the things I was incredibly worried about with Leffler leaving BG when he did. I was like, well, the timing of this is not great, but then again, so
Mhm.
goes the NFL, right? It
Yeah.
just kind of how it goes. And for like literally like what a week later, about a week to a week and a half later,
Hmm.
for us to be sitting here and pretty much unanimously, everyone's like, oh wow, Bowling Green made a slam dunk hire, like at least on
Yeah.
paper. Uh, that was not on my bingo card for 2025.
Yeah. I mean, his record at Tennessee State's 24-22.
Mhm.
So I mean,
I
it is
think
what it is. But Tennessee State, with the resources that they had,
right.
they continually improved every year, and then they finally made it to the FCS playoffs last year.
Two things come to mind. It was because obviously I work for Kent State. This is a known thing. I work for a school within the conference, right? A lot of people asked my opinion about this today as I was kind of working a couple events, and I had the same two things. I said, I mean, as an alumnus of Bowling Green, I'm incredibly happy about it. As a Kent State employee, I'm like, well, this is really good for the MAC. Like, legitimately,
Mm.
like I'm like, for the conference, this is fantastic, and you can't help but just be happy, even though it's not the program your school per se. But I do have I mean the unique situation of being an alumnus and working at another school within the conference. So
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's going to raise the profile of Bowling Green and of the whole conference and stuff. So I think that's going to
yeah,
help
and
out. I mean, he can only help with the media negotiations. If we've got, hey, Eddie George on the sideline, like.
right, like I think to myself, yeah, but a move like this is good for the conference and it's good for football in the MAC in general. I will say I think it'll be great for recruiting. I am like okay, yes, there is a difference between FCS, HBCU football, and FBS Division One. I mean, it's hard at
Mhm.
all levels, but my brain says, yeah, but like the X's and O's, he had like way less resources than even like a Bowling Green and was able to win there, but able to turn that program into a winning one. So uh, I think it's a logical step. And it's also the level
Yeah.
that we would look for anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, to
Like, yeah,
me, we've talked about it a little bit, but like to me, this is kind of like a Mac version of Dion. Because Eddie's not quite the character, but it's a kind of a similar thing. Like
right.
HBCU coach, um, it was never just went straight into being a head coach, and I feel like he probably has a similar philosophy
Yeah.
to where his whole approach to coaching is, they've used the word holistic in
Mm.
their press releases and quotes, and especially with his background and just sort of his approach to things, it feels like his whole thing is being, the leader of men type of coach and trying to be, the leader that these young men need. So I think that might be a bit of a, different type of change of culture.
I am curious to see what happens with the overall coaching staff. I mean, this is kind of getting into the stuff that'll emerge over the next month
Yeah,
because
I think I feel like some people might be staying, some people might be going.
yeah, well,
Yeah, it just remains to be
the
seen.
timing is not great, but honestly, like Leffler's probably in a situation where he was never coming back to college ranks, maybe as a
Yeah,
head coach, maybe for good. Like he might just stay in the
yeah,
NFL. And my thinking about it is, okay, you might leave some guys like out. Like some people are like, what's going to happen with the rest of his staff? I said, well, here's the thing though, because Eddie George is coming from an HBCU, the culture there in terms of like who retains on staff is a little different. I would imagine that there's probably someone on the short list for Tennessee State potentially already there to take over
I
for him,
I would
which
have
is
I would
why
imagine I would imagine they're going to promote one of the coordinators
correct.
just because of how short of time that they have.
Correct. And
Yeah,
I also thought to myself, well, also, it's a great opportunity if you're one of those guys, right? So it's sort
yeah,
of like, I don't think he's going to retain his whole staff necessarily. I might be wrong, but I don't think he's going to retain his whole staff. So because it might be different if he was coming from a different like FCS level, but maybe not. I mean, at that level, you tend to hire from within. So,
Yeah.
like depending on where you're at. So, um, good move for Eddie George. Good looks for the Mac.
Yeah.
Good look for BG. I'm happy about it
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and for what it's worth, a credit to Derek Vandermeer, the athletic director.
for sure.
From what I've heard, he's going to be making significantly more than Leffler was. And so they're showing a, much bigger investment in the program.
That's cool.
So
Moving from one orange and brown to another orange and brown. You want to talk about the other bit of football news, Casey?
yeah, I think we talked about it when it happened. But so Miles Garrett, you know, best play on the Browns, requested a trade like a month ago. It was like around one of our last shows. And it had been getting relatively ugly to the point where was it yesterday or 2 days ago it came out that he requested a meeting with
Jimmy
owner Jimmy
Haslam.
Haslam, and Jimmy Haslam basically was like, no, talk to AB. He's like, okay. And then all of a
Which
sudden
can
they
I say I
throw
respect Haslam for that a lot. I actually,
I do too, because
yeah,
I think Jimmy Haslam 5 years ago would have taken that meeting and then
correct,
just walked all over the GM and just
correct. It's
said
like
like,
no,
yeah,
deal with our GM. That's his job.
yeah. So that to me indicates that he's learning and is like,
Yeah,
look, I'm not getting in the middle of this.
correct.
So which is good, whatever. And so it had been getting ugly because Miles didn't really have any leverage. Like he was untradeable. They were never going to trade him. And so it's just like he had multiple years left on his contract. So it's just like what is the point of even doing this? And his whole thing was it's not about money, it's not about anything. I just want to win a Super Bowl. And then fast forward to this morning, it comes out that he just agrees with an extension to be the highest non-quarterback player in the league, their highest paid non-quarterback in the league, at like $40 million a year or something. Which I think Max Crosby just set that record like like a week ago or
Well, it
something.
was this past week actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's just like whatever. Like I'm glad he's staying, like because it would have sucked to lose him, but like at the same time, what was all of this for? Like the fan base got into a war with our best player because he demanded a trade because he wanted to win, and then all of a sudden he's like, never mind, I'm fine getting that bag and losing. It's like what was the whole point of this? Like,
Yeah, and you know, what was it? I think it started that way, but I think it's also sort of like, well, someone's going to move, and I think, like you said, the Browns kind of looked around and said, would you agree if we did this for you? And it's like, yeah, sure, I'll stay for that. So, in a lot of ways, for him, at least, he doesn't have to leave. He can
yeah,
genuinely kind of become one of the Browns' greats. You know,
yeah.
um, I don't. Here's the thing, though, and I know this is a crazy thing to say. I don't think the Browns are necessarily in an like they're not immediate contenders or anything like that. I don't think that they're too many pieces away from like being a playoff team again.
I
That's the
think
thing.
that's the thing.
That's
Yeah,
the
I
thing that I
think
think that's the thing I think if you really takes a second to think about this, it's like, okay, dude, you being on that team keeps the defense good.
that's kind of the point
They're
of
moving
like,
pieces to make
yeah.
the offense better right now, and at a time when, like I've said to people, the Browns on paper are built like the Steelers are, and even the Steelers can make the playoffs. So it's like, I don't know. I think that is actually, unless you're gonna
I
go to an immediate contender like the Eagles or Chiefs or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know what the point was because I don't know if he just wasn't getting answers out of the front office that he finally was able to get. But
Yeah, maybe he did do that, and
to
they
me,
to listen.
everything hinges on the number two pick in the draft, which it's going to be Cam Ward or Shadou Sanders. Like that, it's going to be one of those two. That's just a fact
Who
at
would
this
you
point.
want them to take, Jason?
I mean, at this point, I don't even know. Like
There
I
is time. I just didn't know if there was like a
yeah.
surefire.
I have questions about both of them, but I mean, as we continue to go on, it seems more and more likely that the Titans are going to end up taking Abdul Carter. So we're going to have our pick out of the two. So
We'll see.
maybe so we'll see. But whoever we pick is gonna have to be a hit,
Yeah,
like because they're gonna have to work out. Um,
I
and if
agree.
they do, then I think they're a contender for the playoffs. So
I agree.
we'll see.
So now that we've touched on that sports stuff, most of, if not the entire rest of the show is gonna it's gonna be popular culture. And quite frankly, man, I've missed you in general. I've missed talking about this stuff because I kind of ended up have like consumed like three different Marvel projects since we last
Yeah.
talked on here, which in reality, doing a hiatus from content like this is good after the Super Bowl since pretty much everyone does it because the NFL
Hmm.
season, and then it's like okay, we get into that, we get into March and everything. We're going to talk about Captain America: Brave New World. I do think we should do a non-spoiler because I do have some things to say for the non-spoiler people if you still are waiting on it. But our spoiler section is going to be longer. So that being said, and we can probably go ahead and rate it up in the non-spoiler too, and then we
Yeah.
can just go ahead and get into spoilers. All in all, do you want to start? Do you want me to start? It's up to you.
You can. Yeah. You go ahead.
Okay. So all in all, I thought this movie Captain America: Brave New World got so much unnecessary hate. That has not wavered for me since I saw it. Okay, no, it didn't necessarily blow the doors off anything Marvel and everything, but I will say, like for that movie to get what it got in terms of like a response when it happened, I walked out and I was like, how do people just review bomb that? Like, I just don't, and it takes me back to a time before Endgame when I thought to myself, there are some movies that people said were good at the time that I'm sorry, like should have gotten this more response and should have gotten a lot more. I don't want to say hate per se, but criticism for not being a quote unquote banger. Again, I continue to think to myself, you're telling me that was worse than Thor: The Dark World? Like that's my floor for like a lot of Marvel stuff. For TV, the floor is like Secret Invasion. So like I don't know. I just that has not wavered for me. Now, do I think this movie did anything like profoundly amazing or like, everything anything that's gonna like just blow the doors off all things Marvel? No. You could definitely tell that it was still moving towards when I think it was under the old Kang plan. But for what the movie was and for what it does for characters, I thought it was fine. Anthony Mackie's great in it. So is Harrison Ford. I would rate it up, but I want to hear what you have to say first in non spoiler. Because I have one more thing to add
Um.
too. Because I will say that this was probably the first Marvel movie of this phase. Sorry to just keep going real quick. Where you really needed to have seen like up to six different things before you saw this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
We can.
think
We
that
can.
hurt
We
it a
can.
bit.
We
Yeah.
can get into that in the spoiler discussion. But I have a comment about that.
Okay.
But uh. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was solid. I mean, it was better than a lot of what we've been getting recently.
Yeah.
So uh it was, I mean, I we knew that it was going to be because it was, I think, like the last big project before they went through the whole like studio overhaul to try and fix a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And so there were still a lot of remnants about it that are of this past several year era. But it was getting in the right direction, and I think it was setting some stuff up, just kind of getting through a lot of things. There was a moment, like there was a moment in it to which, um, you know, a long held complaint from the fan base about a missing plot line was immediately addressed, and so that was nice to see. And yeah, I mean, it was solid. I mean, it was solid.
I will say that uh I think some problems in this film that really persist in terms of the old plan, where we were still more towards moving through towards Kang the Conqueror. I don't see any avenue, Casen, in which that isn't also going to be an issue in the Thunderbolts, right?
Yeah.
Like, I absolutely think that there's going to be plot things or lines changed or things like that are alluding to things that were headed more again towards that being the next like Avengers movie, where now I can say that this is probably the first Marvel movie that didn't establish new characters, where it was pretty much everyone who returned was minus Giancarlo Esposito's character,
Yeah, yeah.
where everyone returned
Yeah.
and it actually pushed the Marvel story forward, presented new things, and it's
Oh
the
yeah, yeah. I
yeah
mean, it
because
was awesome to see this
correct
set up for it's a pretty important thing. Yeah.
it did. And it does exactly. And I would argue that like we haven't really gotten a project that we since we've had this show, you and I talking on the internet, that really did that for the MCU. So now that that's happening, because I refuse to take Deadpool and Wolverine as that movie that did that.
Hmm.
That movie was great, but it was really just kind of a party of a bunch of stuff we'd been wanting for years. And as we talked about on a review of that, it's more of a closing of the book on the Fox universe than it is anything MCU,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's in the MCU, but it wasn't really, it was a closing of that whole chapter. So, yeah, that's what I have to say. What would you rate this up? Just for a reminder for people, we go bronze, silver, gold, vibranium, and I think I said maybe adamantium is on top of that now for the when we did Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm willing to kind of put that there now as far as like if we have 5 tiers, that's the tier. So
Uh, yeah. Um,
because
I
I've been thinking about this since I saw it.
uh,
Because with everything I just saw, I think people are going to be surprised with my or everything I just said. I
I
should say.
it's not okay, so this isn't necessarily to say that it's bad. It's just I think I'm gonna have to go with silver.
I agree.
Um,
I also
yeah.
would put it at silver because we're kind of Marvel fanboys, so like that's why that's our kind of scale. If you go way back to our like third show ever where we did the state of the MCU,
Hmm.
the stuff we put in bronze, there were some things in there, but nothing. At least out of that stuff was stuff that we necessarily called like bad. But like the way it's aged in my head, I'm like, if I'm sorry, if like Secret Invasion is bronze, I have to put this at silver. And maybe if a couple things happened, I could have pushed it to gold, but I can't. It's silver.
Hmm.
That being said, you want to get into spoilers? I think we
Yeah.
should.
Yeah.
I think we've said enough regarding non-spoiler.
Mhm.
This movie, and again, if you, we're gonna spoil the movie, so if you don't care, just don't care about spoilers, we'll say this movie is like half a hey, Sam's out here doing cool stuff. I think I jokingly referred to Falcon and the Winter Soldier as Sam and Bucky or Cap's boys, which if they ever bring that back again, that is still the name of the show, by the way. I refuse to think it's like Captain America and the Winter Soldier or
Hmm.
whatever they tried to do. It's Sam and Bucky. That's literally what that show is. It's like half him doing cool stuff and then like half a sequel to Incredible Hulk, a movie I saw all of one time.
So yeah, same. But so when I had to explain to my wife that the entire plot of the movie was born out of a 1 minute post-credit scene from a movie 17 years ago,
Yep.
she was like, "What?"
Yeah, it's kind of
That most people forgot about.
oh man, and what's kind of wild is that just want to pull this up. That post credit scene, a lot of people were excited about because that's an introduction to legitimately one of like the main important villains in the
Yeah.
Marvel universe, the leader, whose real name is Samuel Stearns. I couldn't remember the name. I knew it was like it starts with an S, but they teased the leader in the post credit scene of Incredible Hulk, and they didn't touch it till now. And it was one of those things that I will say that I thought the shadowy nature in this movie of who is it behind the curtain, who is it, and everything. I didn't know any spoilers, but I kind of figured going into it, I'm like, it's probably gonna have something to do with Incredible Hulk since we are also dealing with uh, Thunderbolt Ross being president. Like, it's got to
They
have
they
something to
they
do.
definitely made sure to comment about that several times
Yes,
to bring it back up in your memory. Like, oh, after everything that happened with Banner, he like his daughter hasn't talked to him, and like they definitely made sure to name drop him several times to
correct.
make you think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and and it's interest. Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, who let's be real, Harrison Ford, I thought did a great job. I mean, in a lot of ways, this movie was also kind of his.
Hmm.
I will say that it's too bad that this couldn't have gone a direction in which his actual becoming Red Hulk was not something they had to put in the first trailer for this movie. That's how they sold the movie, and I really believe that had this been done in a different way, or have they had their original vision to this, that would have been the big reveal in the movie. It would have
I
been like
don't.
the
I maintain that there wasn't really a reason. Like they could have easily marketed this movie without that in it.
I and to be completely honest with you, I really think that they panicked. I really think that they were like, we cannot take the chance that this isn't at least like a financial success. Because of the pressure I'm sure from Disney, from
Yeah.
others, like they're like I really I literally no, I legitimately think they had probably a board meeting about a year ago and said, listen, this cannot be a financial flop. We've got to release it in February/March for the timing of this with what we have planned next year. Let's go ahead and make the executive decision to just put Red Hulk in the first trailer. Let's just get that out of the way, sell the movie on it and then I think they shifted it so that the reveal in the movie is that Samuel Stearns is the shadowy
Yeah.
figure.
Yeah.
Like that's the big reveal in the movie. Um, I gotta say, all those shots of him silhouetted, they made him look cool in the silhouette. And then when I actually saw what he looked like when they brought him into the light, I'm like, okay, you could have done a little bit better job making him look like the leader here.
Yeah.
I really think that kind of was lackluster. Like, oh, okay, so you just made it so his brain is basically like on the outside of his head. Like that's not really what he looks like in the comics, but I don't know. Maybe they
Yeah.
figured that how he looks in the comics is like too stupid. So I don't know. It's those that's on the basis of the way the plot goes. I thought it made sense, but the other reveal we should talk about is that adamantium is officially in the
Yep.
MCU now. Officially, it's in 616, our main Earth timeline. I was I liked how they worked that into the plot. I thought some of the logistics of the film were a little bit confusing. I'm like, wait, Indian Ocean? How on earth did he go from here to here in like a few hours? Like, wait, that's on the other side of the world. Like, what? I would like to see a map
Yeah.
of where the celestial is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that goes back to this. Let's just get into this. For you to know this movie, you would have had to see what?
The Incredible Hulk.
Like 10 different projects, like
Yeah.
Incredible Hulk, basically all of Endgame. You had to have seen the Eternals. You had to have seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier.
You I mean what? Basically Sokovia Accords too. You would have had to see
Yeah.
so many things, and I think there's a large percentage of people who probably went into this one and really thought, okay, so a lot of stuff has happened off screen. I think Hideo Kojima even tweeted about it, like the dude behind the Metal Gear Solid series. I'm like, hey, did I have to have seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier to know that he's now Captain America? Like, did I miss that? And I'm like, yeah, you missed that. Like, I would think that like that at least seeing
Yeah.
that series would be something you want to do before that. Because one of the things in here I liked was his to his relationship to what's his name, Isaiah. He's played by Nate, the his relationship with the original Captain America, who gets in trouble and he proves his innocence and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, I like that. That's like a grounded piece of Sam's being Captain America. I know I
Hmm.
said a lot. I'm sorry, I'm scatterbrained, but go ahead.
I no, I mean, yeah, I think that
Just pulled from a lot.
I just think that like yeah, the fundamental problem that I think we're finally reaching is like I said, that this whole thing started almost 20 years ago.
Yeah,
And so it's just kind of like at this point, if you're not aware, if you haven't seen everything or most things, or like if you're not super into this at this point, like why are you even here?
right. Like, and it makes me wonder how the next real Avengers movies are going to go because I think we should go ahead and just address this. Some of the concept art from Avengers Doomsday has come out. It's essentially leaked, and it's one of those things where it sounds like sounds like Disney's okay with the leaks because it's one of those things where it's like, hey, let's get people like excited again. But it is showing like all of the different heroes they've established and like where they are or could be
Hmm.
at the start of that. And I really think that that's by design. I really think that the Russos like are wanting that to happen because I think because of how up and down the MCU has been, you kind of got to get people excited for an Avengers movie again. You kind of like I'm like, yeah, what's this going to look like? Well, it's going to look like Doom doing his stuff and all right, well, who's around? You got Star-Lord over here, you got the Young Avengers over here, you got Thunderbolts characters, whatever they end up doing, over here. And I really had to think, and I was like, yeah, I feel like you need this. I feel like you really need to do this. You need to leak out this idea of, no, we're going in the Downey Jr. direction again. Him as a variant of um of Doctor Doom, literally. So ultimately, I did like this. I will say, Casen, I'm trying to think here. Two, one issue I have and one thing I liked. I liked that we got a cameo of from Bucky. I figured that he would be in here somewhere.
Mhm.
I'm glad that they're still friends. I don't know whose idea it is to have him running for senator. I don't know how.
I
I don't
yeah,
know how anyone should feel
I had
about
the
that.
comment too. I'm like, are we just like going to elect the Winter Soldier into Congress now? Is that what we're
Right?
doing?
Like, are enough people just cool with him now?
Like, did we all forget collectively that he's a murderer and like an
Yeah, I mean,
assassin?
I was like, listen, even he would understand. Yeah, the optics of this probably aren't good. I'd kind of like to just be in the background. The other,
You killed Tony Stark's parents, man.
right, and I don't know how many people know that. You know what I mean? But people within the MCU know that. But I'm thinking to myself, yeah, but enough people in like the government at this point probably know that he was literally a political, not political. He was a
A
prisoner.
Soviet
He was a
spy.
Soviet spy and a prisoner for like an evil organization. I'm like, I feel like Bucky wouldn't want to even do this. Like he wants to
I
run for,
yeah.
he wants to run for office. I feel like Bucky should want to lay low for the rest of his life, and maybe that's what they're gonna do in the Thunderbolts, since he's gonna continue in that. But when you think about it, Sebastian Stan is also one of these from the beginning, from the first phase people who's
Yeah.
continuing to go. He was in the first Cat movie, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
I
mean,
mean,
he's literally the Manchurian candidate.
yeah.
Like the Soviets can just say some words and trigger him, and he's a sleeper
Well,
agent.
again, that's another thing in the Falcon Winter Soldier. They cured him. The Wakandians cured him of that. He's not that anymore. But I don't know. There's some stuff in here to where it's like I feel like Bucky should be more of a part of this, since he's dealing with since Stearns is trying to do the same thing here.
Yeah.
I thought the motivation of Stearns was pretty good. It kind of creepy and shadowy that they kept him tucked away all this time, and that he was secretly poisoning slash gamifying up Thunderbolt Ross.
Yeah.
I don't. This wasn't going to happen in the movie, but I'm sorry. I don't see a situation in which he would survive this whole endeavor. Like, he's an older guy. I don't. In other words, when he comes back down, I'm like, I feel like if I'm Stearns, I'm trying to make this a thing so that he dies here, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just seemed like that would be, I mean, maybe that he was trying to do, and he comes down from it, right? But it's been a really long time since we've seen an actual out of control Hulk monster, and one of the best moments in the movie is, I like the fact that Sam never took the super soldier serum. It's like, look, he's got other stuff, but the fact that he's a regular guy is one of those things. He's tough like that. But then he's like, nah, Bucky was wrong. I should have taken the super soldier serum when he's actually fighting the Hulk. It's like, oh man.
I don't understand how he just didn't get killed
Yeah.
like immediately.
I'm like,
Like
I mean,
there's no way some regular normal dude is just getting pounded by the Hulk
he's
and
got
like
he's got
surviving.
vibranium wings. Okay, I will say that, and maybe they just didn't want to pay for this to be the thing. I think it would have made more sense for his daughter to be brought from wherever she was. Maybe she saw the news, and when they're there at the cherry blossoms at the end,
Yeah, yeah, they
maybe
were
she
yeah.
comes out, and it's like, Dad, stop! Like,
They weren't paying Liv Tyler for that.
that's what I mean. Like, I'm like, you can definitely tell that, like, no, we're gonna pay her for a cameo at the end that she can do in like a day. We're not gonna have her come out and actually be part of the scene. But like, wouldn't you agree that writing wise that would have made more sense? Like,
Yeah, no,
you are not telling
I
me here that,
expected that. Yeah, I expected
yeah,
her to come to those cherry blossoms,
right. I'm like,
but
surely
then
his daughter is
yeah,
gonna see
yeah,
this and be like,
yeah,
we got to get her over there, right? Because I think that would have emotionally made that more impactful. Like,
yeah,
oh, that's my dad. Snap. Like, But let me get to my final theory. That leads us to the Thunderbolts, and really nothing in this movie alludes to anything that's going to happen in the Thunderbolts, right? Having rewatched the trailer from the Super Bowl, I get what Alexi's doing when he says that. He's like, "We are the Thunderbolts." I think it's the idea of he kind of had a redemption because he gave up the presidency. He
Hmm.
chose to go into the raft. He essentially kind of saw the error of his ways, right? And said, look, I can't keep living that life. Towards the end of my life, anyway, he's in that cell at the end. I think there's this idea of redemption. And I think that that is what Alexi's getting at when he says, we are the Thunderbolts. Like, we've all done
Well,
sketchy stuff, but it's like we're the Thunderbolts. What's his face? This U.S. agent guy is like, we cannot, like, no, we're not calling ourselves that. But I'm thinking to myself, that's why there's the asterisk there, because there's going to be like that one line, but this movie's actually going to have some other title at the end of it. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and I think it has something to do with because at the beginning, Ross told Sam he wanted to bring back the Avengers,
Right.
and so this is yeah that version of that.
Right. So that's pretty much every thought I have on Captain America Brave New World. I will say, though, that I think the MCU now is in an issue where if something doesn't blow the doors off everything, there's a whole subset of the internet that's just going to say, no, this is terrible. And I'm like, well, no, it isn't. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of essentially I think just where we're at
hmm
because with how long this has been going on, the only people still around are the diehards at this point, pretty much.
well, that'll watch everything. I think you can get a
Yeah.
lot of people back with a good Avengers movie. I really believe that. Because Endgame and others have shown that, like, people are willing to do that and everything. I got to tell you another whole thing that I almost like. I was so kind of mad when I actually saw it in the theater. That is one of my motivations for putting this movie at silver. I have no idea why they got rid of the Marvel fanfare at the beginning.
Oh, yeah, that
I
was super
actually was
weird.
mad. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, the rumors are true. True, they really did that. That's a terrible decision. Like,
Yeah, that was
I
weird.
was like,
Yeah.
why, like, dude? It's like a few seconds. Why on earth are you? Who made that call? I was like, so you're getting to the point now where you're streamlining everything. Like, to me, I'm like, that's a. I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking with that. I hope the backlash of that is such that they're like, oh snap, we got to put that in Thunderbolts. Like,
Yeah.
but if it's not in Thunderbolts, I'm gonna be like, okay, so they're just not doing that anymore. But to me, the Marvel fanfare at the beginning isn't just like, it's part of the cinematic experience of like when you see that, like, oh, it's go time. Previews are over.
Yeah.
It honors the legacy of your own creations. You know what I mean? And to see it go from the comics strips from the beginning to then stuff from the movies, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they used it to honor Chadwick Boseman, and for the final Guardians movie it was just scenes with them. Like, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, why wouldn't you make it just scenes with Sam or something, like, or a few shots of Steve, and like maybe there's a shot or two from Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV show, like,
Have Edward Norton in there.
yeah, have Edward Norton there. I mean, I don't know, that really angered me, and it actually because I'd seen a TikTok that was potentially the case, or I'm not, it may or may not be in there or whatever, or they've changed it or whatever. When I saw, I'm like, no, it's literally just, hey, Marvel Studios, and then we're going. I'm like, it comes off to me like you guys don't even care anymore. You know, I don't know.
Mhm.
That made me angry. I just wanted to vent about it for a moment.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean they must have decided it didn't fit with the vibe of the beginning, but
I
like
guess
that's not how it works. Like it
no.
belongs there.
No, and the other thing I would honestly kind of accept is if they replaced that with some sort of specific intro. I'm not talking like a James Bond movie, okay? But I am talking
Hmm.
like all of their mid-credit stuff is all artistically done, like for the project you just saw. That's been a
Yeah.
Marvel thing forever. But now I'm like, for TV shows, I'm glad that they stopped putting the full fanfare in there, because I don't think that's necessary for TV when it's before every single episode.
Hmm.
But movies, I'm sorry, you got to put it back in. That's all I got to say on Brave New World.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I'm looking forward to seeing where they take all of this. And if that's the one Harrison Ford project we got in the MCU, I thought he did a great job.
No, yeah, I
Thought he
mean
did
I
fantastic.
absolutely. I mean they were in a tough spot with having to replace
Yeah,
that role and he did a good job at it.
absolutely. I also don't necessarily know. I don't know if that previous actor's there, if necessarily they get the exact same story here. I think you need someone with the acting chops of like a Harrison Ford to pull off what he did in here. So
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Do we want to shift to the animated side or whatever you saw? 'Cause, like, I got one brief
Sure.
thing to talk about before we get into Daredevil Born Again to wrap up the show. You ready?
Mhm.
Cool. What do you want? What's your thing? Because I think what did you see?
Well, so this is a little thing. You can go ahead first.
Okay,
Callan watched something that he'll talk about. I saw something not Marvel, but this is sort of like
gotcha.
like some kind of watch report. Like you saw it, you can talk about it.
Same thing. I'll watch report. Maybe that's the kind of thing I'll do um because I will ask you. I obviously flew to Texas. I was in a wedding. And on the plane ride down, I watched the first 5 episodes of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man animated TV show on Disney Plus. And on the way home, I watched the second 5 episodes, the back 5 episodes of the season. It's 10 30-minute episodes, nice little bite-sized adventures. Um, what I can say is, I guess I can rate this up. I would say out of our rating system, it's a gold. It's a gold out of I can't quite put it vibranium. I think there are some pieces here that, and I'm saving adamantium for like another worldly type thing. I am, how do I put this? There are some elements here that I think that if they take them in a very creative direction, could honestly lead to maybe, if not the best animated Spider-Man story we've ever gotten. I will say that it doesn't move anything. It does. It just go watch the trailer. Peter. It's a new take on Spider-Man. He essentially gets powers. The person in his life that he's kind of learning from, ironically, is Norman Osborn. There's kind of like a cool setup, I think, for potentially the villain Tombstone in the show with the Lonnie Lincoln character. It's definitely more comic booky. The animation is gorgeous. I really cannot get that out of the way. Like, it stays with you. Like, has an iconic look. Really reminds me of like the old comics. If you're not familiar with the series, it was initially, as you recall, Casen, supposed to flesh out like the freshman year of like the
Hmm.
early years of Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Going to go ahead and say right now that I think had they done that, that this show would be worse. I'm gonna go ahead and just say that right now. I think this would be because no one cares about backstory. I don't need a prequel of what he was doing before Homecoming. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Before he met Tony Stark. I don't need all that. I don't before the events of Civil War. All of that stuff to me is not interesting. I would rather you tell your own story, and that's what they did with this. In a world where all of the universes are now connected by the Watcher, I could totally see him in the next like Spider Verse movie. I could totally see him coming through a portal at some point. I don't know, but there is a and this minor spoiler, but there is a moment in like the last episode where he's swinging through the city and you see the Watcher's eye in the
Hmm.
sky, and it's like, oh, okay, so that they're he's got his eyes on this universe as well. I will also say, without spoiling anything, in case, and I will tell you off air what happens if you don't care to ever watch necessarily this show, but they do a thing in the finale that links the first episode and the last episode in a way that's sort of like the time paradox from Miss Marvel. Sort
Hmm.
of like it. It's like, oh, okay, so they are telling like a they're showing like the ramifications of how the Spider-Man story is always a special one, regardless of how it's told, right? And Peter Parker in here is fantastic. They really make Norman Osborn a compelling character. He always is, right? No matter what it is. But I really think that like his descent into villainy over the seasons of the show is going to be that much more impactful. Sort of like how in the first Spider-Man PS4 video game, when Doctor Audio Octavius like descends all the way into villainy by the end of the game to become Doctor Octopus, it's genuinely heartbreaking. Like it's like a father figure to him has is doing this stuff to him, and
Hmm.
you can really feel the emotion. I think this show has the potential to load to bring a loaded situation like this. Only it's Green Goblin. You know what I mean? Who in every iteration of Spider-Man is his biggest villain in the sense of every iteration, everything that they've ever written. Norman Osborn has done the most damage to him. So to his life personally. So all in all, I say it's a gold. I would say if you're into kind of the external stuff, and I'm a Spider-Man kind of super fan, so I was going to enjoy it. But I would say it's definitely worth a watch. And it sounds like they're going to bang out seasons of this in like a year. So because they've already talked about like they've already renewed it for like seasons 2 and 3. So
Oh
I'm like,
wow.
yeah. So I'm like, all right, I'm on board. I'll watch. So, Kason, what did you watch?
Yeah, so shifting away from Marvel for a second.
Okay.
Um just random comment. I saw the most recent season of Love is Blind. Terrible, terrible season. Awful. Just these are just awful people. Like they this season was all people from Minneapolis, and they're
Mm-hmm.
just boring people, terrible couples, awful relationships. It was bad. Um, and then I also saw uh there's a new Netflix show that just came out called Running Point
Mm.
with Kate Hudson playing essentially Jeannie Buss, the president of a Los Angeles-based basketball team, who her brothers are running the team that their dad owned, and she gets thrust into becoming the president of the team and has to figure out how to run the team.
Is it?
Uh,
Okay. I hadn't really heard. I'd heard of the show name, didn't know what it was about. So is it sort of like a Genie Bus story inspired like comedy?
it's yeah, like I don't know really the similarities between like with Jeannie Buss outside of woman running a basketball team.
Okay.
I think it was just kind of that was the point of it. Um, I mean, Kate Hudson does a really good job doing it. I the Justin Theroux plays the old her brother, the old president. Like 10 minutes into the first episode, he gets like he goes into rehab, and so
Oh,
he has to
geez.
like, and so he's like, I'm stu he yeah, he's like doing drugs and goes into rehab, and he's like, I'm naming you my replacement, and so it's like
Got it.
okay,
That's a cool
but
idea for a sitcom.
yeah, so it's yeah, it's a comedy type of thing. I thought it was funny. It got renewed for a second season like immediately
That's
because
always a great
it went
sign.
pretty viral. So uh, yeah, I mean if you it's pretty easy to watch because there's like 10 episodes and they're like 30-40 minutes long. They're pretty short, so
It's
it's
interesting
pretty easy to
because
watch.
when I go back and listen to episodes of our show, not necessarily just for critique reasons and listen to how our takes change or anything, but I mean it when I say like the 3 episodes we talked about the Acolyte are like 3 of my favorite episodes we ever did. Just because like sometimes I just listen to certain things and I see what the rest of the internet's like reaction is to make sure I'm not going crazy. I'm saying to myself like this is bad content, right? Like this is not good. And it's like no, it didn't get a season 2. No, it's not good. It's not good enough to justify the money being spent on it at least. And the fact that the streaming numbers never really come out, it's like we have no idea how much it is. But I also think that the thing that I'm always up in my head about is when something gets a renewed season before it even, before the first ones even come out. I'm like, I don't know how they run the numbers on that to know that ahead of time, but okay, sure. You know?
I mean, in my head, what happened was it was probably a relatively cheap show to make, because they as a basketball team, they play in an arena. They from my guess, they had Microsoft sponsor the name of the arena. And so that probably paid for a lot of the build for the
Yeah, that's
show.
true.
And so there's like in-show branding that, helps with that.
I
And so it was
will,
a probably
yeah.
relatively cheap show, and it kind of took the internet by storm for like the weekend it came out.
Oh, absolutely.
And so yeah, I mean, I easy like PR thing for Netflix to just say, okay, yeah, coming back for another season.
Yeah, simple enough. I think, hmm, I
Because
think,
it did end on a cliffhanger, which was kind
oh,
of I
okay.
think a pretty big thing. Yeah.
There is an element of us doing this show, this podcast that has really caused me to now really pay attention to things like what's the budget on it,
Mm.
what that could go towards, what was that? I mean, especially really since the Acolyte, the $180 million show that through all 8 episodes, I'm like, what on earth did it go to? Like, I just it is cool to see. I will just go ahead and say I am very excited for the second season of Andor, which comes out in April. Don't necessarily know if that's something we'll review on here. You and I can talk about that off air, but you can tell they bumped the budget up for the second season, even with some of the stuff that they've shown. I mean, the sets and everything like that just look amazing. And I'm like, it's sort of like when you, it's sort of like when I look at the first season of Stranger Things and then the second season of Stranger Things. And then when they bumped it to a third season and they got like hundreds of millions of dollars more to
Yeah.
put in the set, and they built a whole 80s mall. I'm like, I think a part of this is just like, oh man, when you have that much money, it's like, okay, we need to tell a story that justifies this amount of money being put
Yeah.
towards our stupid thing. So I think that's like the other thing too. It's like, okay, well, how far can we take this? So I can just tell that that happened with Andor. Everyone's like, oh wow, Andor season one was really good. Season two just looks like let's just build every set out entirely. Let's just do it. So is it time? Is it time for Daredevil
Yeah. Yeah.
Born Again? Okay. Since this is at the end of the show, I am not gonna. We should not do a spoiler thing here. I think you should go take a look at it yourself because we didn't. We don't really do that when we go episode to episode. We just kind of dive right into the spoilers. It's not hard. You get just go check it out. You can cap it right here, Casen. We always timestamp our show, so we can get right into spoilers for
Mhm.
Daredevil Born Again. Let me just say one thing right out of the gate. This just needs to be said because it's not said enough. Because I was talking to you in the chat and other people this weekend. Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox both deserve so much credit, both
Mhm.
because they clearly love being their own characters. But I'm watching this first even episode, and we'll get to the big thing that happens in the opening 7 minutes here in a moment. But um, Vincent D'Onofrio's Wilson Fisk is such a complex character in the MCU, and I'm like, he's a top three MCU villain for me now. Like he just is. Just how scary he is, how evil he is. The fact that genuinely every scene he's in, I just don't feel safe. Like
Mhm.
those are the best villains to me. The ones that are most memorable. I think of like Heath Ledger's Joker. I think of Thanos. Every season he was in, or every scene he was in. Those villains that just make you worried for everyone else's safety when they're just anywhere doing stuff. Just the level of evil. And he remains since Daredevil season one through Hawkeye, through Echo, which we also reviewed on here. To now Daredevil Born Again. He's just been doing this character for so long, and he continues to just knock it out of the park. Um, and he clearly likes doing it. Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock. It's one of the best translations from page to screen I've ever seen done, and it's cool to see that that's going to continue under Disney. At least first two episodes, I will say, feel that way. I'll let you dive in anything you want to.
No, yeah, I mean, I definitely um it hit like hitting play immediately in the first episode. The style is different. Like I remember just seeing it start and being like, oh, okay, this is a very different vibe. And then as it kept going, and then there's just a lot of scenes, just a lot of shots. Like I know I talk a lot about directing and stuff in these projects. And like to me, one of the most insane things, so like out of these first two episodes, was the immediate first shot that you see of Fisk when it's upside down and he's eating at the table, and
Mm.
then it's just all of a sudden, then you see the building in the background. Um, that great shot on that. Um, yeah, it felt
Because
like a completely different.
to
Yeah,
get a lot of those shots, I mean, they had to physically move the camera to do that. Like a lot of
yeah,
that,
yeah.
I mean, you appreciate things like that for sure. The whole bar thing plays out, of course, and I remember thinking to myself, this feels too clean. This feels too. It's all three of them. All three the main cast are back. They're walking out the Nelson Murdoch and Page thing, and it just made me think to myself, this is called Daredevil Born Again. It feels like someone's gonna die. Like I just had that feeling of
I did you not know that?
I
like
did
for
not
some
know that.
reason I knew he was dying. I don't know
No,
why.
no,
I don't know because I think I thought it came out or something that he was dying. Like I don't know how I knew,
no.
but I knew that he was dying.
Oh, well, I mean, I was genuinely surprised when that happened. I was like, okay, so Foggy's dead.
It might have been like a leak from when they were talking about the when they completely redid the show.
Mm,
I think it came out with that. So I think I knew that there was an idea to kill him. So I think that was how because like you got the feeling like when they were doing that stuff on the street, like you were like, this feels very like I am anxious for the lives of all of these people.
yeah,
Like something
I'm
is
anxious.
happening.
Something's gonna go down, and I gotta say, oh, man, that's why you gotta go watch season 3 of Daredevil if you ever
Yeah.
really care about it, because Poindexter, Ben Poindexter, Dex, like as I think that actor and his is going to be a very cool bullseye in the MCU, because his from how insane he is to his lack of remorse to the fact that he can genuinely turn anything into a weapon. Like that was his bit in the comics, and as soon as they showed the gloves with the bullseye, I'm like, dude, is he in the full costume? Like, are they going to do that this quick? And no, I do think we will get that at some point. But Poindexter, and then Matt obviously tries to kill him like straight off the side of off of the, and I'm like, I don't remember if he has any other abilities beyond just his ability to just turn everything into a weapon. But when a paperclip just went through a fly, I'm like, okay, like, here he is. You know what I mean? Um, and just the fact that something will just come out of nowhere and just staplers stuff. There's a whole scene where they fight each other in season 3 where I'm like, they did this incredibly. Just random stuff's coming through, knocking people out and all this stuff. And I'm like, he's spooky too. But anyway, we get the times. We're not going to go scene by scene here. I thought it was good. They're
I
putting all the pieces together. Go ahead.
Well, I do just want to comment two things. First,
Go ahead. Yeah.
like you said, like that big opening thing where they're just talking, walking the street. The anxiety of that scene, it felt like the opening scene of like a CSI when like you see the murder and then you like find out what happened. Like
Yeah.
it felt like that was where we were starting. Where we were like,
The old
okay, this is the opening
CSIs
sequence. Yeah,
that were just
it's like
like people
yeah,
having fun and all this stuff,
yeah,
and then they stumble and it's like, okay, how are they gonna see what happened?
yeah.
And then
And then the whole fight sequence was insane. Like, and then like the part where they're on the stairs going up to the roof, and they're like both half like they're like injured and can barely move.
you, I know that was a creator of the show decision to say, like, what's the one way we can show that Daredevil's all the way back? Let's just give him one of those shots in the opening 5 to 10 minutes, you know, where we just go up a stairwell and we're flying through and he's fighting somebody. I'm like, yeah, this is Daredevil. Yeah, we're back. We are totally back. Obviously incredibly sad moment, but skipping ahead a little bit, one of my favorite scenes I have seen in a television project at all, I really have to say, is when Matt is sitting down with Wilson Fisk. Because they showed that in the trailer, but I'm like, I'm sure it's a much longer scene where a lot of cooler things are said and done. And it was. That whole scene was just amazing because, like I said, one of my favorite things is when the antagonist and the protagonist sit down and talk. And, he is genuinely campaigning too. There's a lot of parallels to what it takes to run for mayor of New York and the differences and how popular you got to be and all that stuff and and the things you got to do in terms of actual campaigning. But he takes some time away just to talk to Matt Murdock because it is one of those things where this guy did break me a few times. And I think there's a level of respect from Wilson Fisk for Matt Murdock because like, yeah, like he took him down and ended his plans at least two other times. Spoiler alert for seasons 1 and 3 of Daredevil. But I also am thinking to myself, this man has either basically destroyed his way or threatened his way to every single person. And Matt Murdock is the only person to ever actually beat him. And I just know that I was like, that just eats Wilson Fisk alive. Like it just inside, he's like,
Mhm.
and I'm thinking to myself, I have a question for you. One, did you like that scene? And two, in the first 2 episodes, do you genuinely think Wilson Fisk is trying to change, or do you think this is all just a play for him? Because I'm right now in between. I really can't tell. Like, I really can't tell if it's like he really is trying to genuinely do it, or if it's like, yeah, I'll do it, but because I keep thinking to myself, there's got to be an episode where he just snaps, you know? And he's sitting in that scene and they show his knuckles already beating. Looked
Yeah.
like he'd been punching wood or something, or people, who knows. But I'm sitting here thinking to myself, we haven't seen him for a while. Like, there's marital issues. He does have motivation of wanting to get fix things with Vanessa, right? So I don't know.
But the thing is though, is the part that I'm trying to understand of like the timeline
Hmm.
is this. So the whole Mayor Fist thing was implied at the end of Echo
Yes.
to the point where like it to me it feels like this is happening immediately after Echo. That like he gets off the plane and then goes to see Vanessa. But like it's immediately from the end of Echo of the point
Mm.
where it's like because he's watching the news coverage of the mayor situation, and then he's like maybe like I'll have to get in the race now, and then he's like yeah it's time to get in the race, and it's like it feels like it's immediately following the events of that, but he was talking about it like it happened
Correct.
years ago.
But him on the campaign trail feels longer than that. You know what I mean? Feels like that is taking place longer than that because it takes some time for a whole race to play out. Because in that whole episode, they show him on the debate stage. They show him, he actually has quite a few bars in there. He actually said, "I'm like, man, as a politician, that's actually pretty cool." There was the one scene where he says, "We need to make a registration list for vigilantes." He's like,
Yeah.
"Man, that's like making a grocery list for cancers." I'm like, okay, that's a line in there. I don't
Yeah.
know who wrote that, but that is a bar, and that is absolutely something I would um hear. Like you could definitely hear that being said on a debate stage. I'm like, I'm sorry, that was a
Hmm.
that was a bar right there from Wilson Fisk. But I get it, like from his perspective, it's like they are hinting at the whole Devil's Reign thing, but they're doing it differently, and I do like that. I'd like to see how far they take that because what I really don't want, Casen, is, and this is relevant to both episodes, I really don't want whatever befalls Wilson Fisk in a villainous way. I don't want him to not be mayor of New York by the end of this season. Do you get what I mean? I don't want that. I think it would be cooler if there were multiple seasons where he's mayor of New York, and then maybe he's like trying to be on the straight and narrow this season, and then something happens and he has to go full villainy, and then he's just a villain but mayor in the next season. I think that
Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
cooler. That would just be cooler. Like, don't let this whole idea that he's the mayor is just cool. I don't want this to be a one and done. You know what I mean? He's never gonna have more power than he has right now in terms of a political position.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of funny to just like see him in the position of like I don't know, like basically House of Cards
Yeah.
to where he's just like doing whatever he wants. Uh, um and to like see sort of like him take advantage of the situation. Um I don't know if you know the kid who's like his like number one supporter in his office, like
Oh,
the
Daniel.
yeah, that's Michael Gandolfini, James Gandolfini's son.
Oh,
And
okay.
so very interesting tie-in I thought it was kind of
It
interesting.
is. It is. That is. Thank you, Daniel. I just
Hmm.
I love when people do the impressions of his voice. Shifting to our boy Matt Murdock. Okay.
Yeah.
It's been cool to see that there still is that, like, he's trying to do right by being a lawyer. Because let's be real, some of the best scenes with Matt Murdock in the first three seasons of Daredevil is when he's doing lawyer stuff. I mean,
Hmm.
he's just a really good lawyer. As he said when he saved Peter Parker from getting a brick to his face. I'm a really good lawyer. I'm like, yeah, he is. But his abilities make him a good lawyer, right? Because he can tell when people are lying. He can tell when there's truth, stuff like that. I think the way they're portraying his radar sense so far is okay. I hope they do a little bit more in the way of, because in the comics they do a really cool thing where they basically show how he sees the world. I'm like,
Hmm.
it would be cool if I got one shot of how it's the fact that he can just run and go places and do stuff. I'm like, yeah, it's essentially like he has the ability to
It's like
piece it
sonar.
together. It's like
Yeah.
sonar. Yeah, he sees and
Yeah,
he can tell where everything
like
is. Yeah.
Yeah, so if he's like walking and he taps his stick,
Hmm.
he sees all the obstructions in front of him.
Yeah, every time
Yeah.
he every yeah, it's yeah, exactly. It's like it pieces together in front of him in his mind. Every time he hears something, taps a stick. And the other thing that comics and this show I hope do a good job of, or the show I hope does a good job of showing is it's hard for him to switch it off. Like he can't really switch it off. He's just kind of there's extra scenes. That's why I felt that when he heard Foggy's heart stop, it was so painful. And I thought that was his reaction was so genuine and so well acted. Uh, because he does view the world differently. He does have heightened
Mhm.
senses, and that's his whole thing. It makes him really good at fighting. So, um, gotta talk about this. This whole idea of the guy who's White Tiger, him defending him, I think is a cool direction to take. It's like, yeah, he's White Tiger, but there's clearly something going on with the police here that I don't necessarily know if Wilson Fisk is involved in yet or not. Because the police were harassing this guy. One of them gets killed by the subway, and apparently two police guys come in at the end of the episode too, and one of them has a Punisher tattoo on, and it's sort
Mhm.
of like all is not right here. That's why I'm not one of these people who I've rewatched that scene a few times and I've seen a few reactions to it. And I've thought to myself, these aren't regular police officers. Something is up here. These are either corrupted police or like a subset of the cops who are trying to follow like the Punisher's example or something. Thoughts?
No, yeah, yeah. Is it there's definitely some kind of um thing because it's been hinted at several times that like a quarter of the police department just quit,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're insanely short-staffed, and there's already some kind of internal civil war going on amongst the people left, from what it sounds like. Um, so yeah, but so that's my question of like, it definitely seems like that guy who's the commissioner now isn't doing a good job. So it's like, are we supposed to be rooting for him because he's enemies with Fisk? Like, 'cause it seems
Yeah,
like
I was
he's
a little
really bad at his
confused.
job.
Yeah, I was a little confused by that because I was like, wait, like wouldn't getting you fired be the thing that Fisk would want to do and like replace you with a loyalist? And yet
Yeah,
he's
I really
he's
don't understand why
he's
he
coming
wants
in.
him because he hates him. So
Yeah,
why is he like
yeah,
blackmailing him
yeah,
to
and he
keep him
black
around?
and he
Like that
blackmails him,
doesn't
and
even
I
make
thought
sense.
and I thought to myself like I could see someone trying to do that to him who's not even as evil as Wilson Fisk. Like to me, that's just a political move someone would do.
Yeah.
It's like you can leave, but if you leave, I'm just going to reveal to everyone. And I thought to myself, wouldn't that be the thing you do to get him to stay on or get him to quit or something? Like quit or I'm going to reveal your fam. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't
I don't
know.
I don't understand why he wants him
I don't
around.
I don't think his story's over yet. And the fact that the scene where he just told off Fisk was awesome to me. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, at least someone's got the guts to actually say something like this to his face, and you could just see it behind the. I was like, man, if any other circumstance, he would beat you to death right here. I was like,
I mean, I
pulled
well,
at him
okay.
between the
So
eyes.
I guess backing up,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they do say that politically he needs him to stay in order to keep the cops from quitting.
Correct, correct.
But like at the same time, isn't that what like Kingpin would want? Was all the cops just
Right.
like
When
no police at all?
Right, and I don't know how. That's what I mean. I'm like, there's clearly something else going on with the police here that these two guys may not even really be involved in. We don't know yet. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
and Fisk literally just became mayor, right? He's doing the optics thing. I actually really
Yeah.
liked the scene where he gets out of the car and says, "Hey, Foreman, you have the resources, manpower, do this." I'm like, I could totally see a new mayor of a city doing that. You know what I mean? Like when the section of the highway collapsed and like Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania was there the next day.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, see that this is realistic. This is definitely something I could see someone in his position doing where optically it looks great. And also it's like, hey, can we get a move on with this so we can like help out? So anyway, um, it's believable. I gotta say, man, when the last thing we saw in these two episodes, and we can jump back to anything you want to, but when Daredevil finally came out at the end, I was I about like jumped out of my chair. I was like, okay, these guys don't know who they're messing with, and it's like, oh, you're gonna put a gun in my head. Well, all right, I'm gonna take you out. And I'm like, you guys have no idea what you just woke up. And I was like,
Also,
remember, you asked for
by the
this.
way, just like completely like ignoring the fact that these are two cops who are, I guess, seemingly now supposed to just be murdering or trying to murder a blind lawyer
Yeah,
for no reason.
yeah. And I I remember seeing to myself, okay, I don't know if these two guys are alive after what Matt does to him. Like, be completely honest, I'm sure they are. They just wanted to make it look cool. But it's like I was just thinking to myself, remember, you guys asked for this. He's like, you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. And I'm like, all right, fine. We'll just
So how long do you think until we get the Punisher in here?
man, that's a really good and that's he's been in the trailers, right? They've shown John Barenthal with his really
Yeah,
long
yeah,
hair.
we know he's in it. Yeah,
Frank Castle's around somewhere. Honestly, and I do like the Punisher as a character. I really do because you need people like him, antiheroes like him, to show what worse is. You know what I mean? In terms of, yeah, it could be worse. They could just murk everybody. Like that goes out of line. You know what I mean? That I think it could be the next episode. I think legitimately we could see some sort of ramification with these two guys, with one of them showing the Punisher tattoo. I think it could legitimately be episode 3. And maybe we're going to find out that he's more involved in this than we think. But I don't think it's going to be that long from now, being totally honest with you.
the yeah, I hope it's soon because it'd be real interesting to see because like I he has to be like totally against all these corrupt cops wearing tattoos having tattoos of his
Yeah, he
name
would. I'm thinking to myself, the Punisher I know would not like this. Like, he would
like that
not.
doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, that or yeah. I can see him being like, no, 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 you guys aren't going to do this. Like, yeah, like um, and maybe the fact that they were willing to just kill Matt right there is kind of showing that they're supporters of him. But it's like, yeah, but there's like it's like in the Dark Knight Returns are in his absence people who come up and try to be like him and it's all stuff. And it's like no, like they're like followers of Batman or whatever. I don't know. We'll see. But last thing I have here is I like the dynamics of the new characters in Matt's personal life. He starts dating the therapist. The
Mhm.
therapist has like is secretly marriage counsel with Fisk and Vanessa. I don't think Fisk knows who she is yet. Is to Matt. I really don't think that at least he knows. His guy might know, um,
Yeah,
but I don't. It hasn't necessarily been made clear yet if Fisk knows that about him.
he definitely will find that out.
100%.
That is 100% happening.
That is 1,000% happening. Yes, and maybe they'll just reveal in one of these episodes that he totally knows and he's known the whole time. Like, okay, two birds with one stone. I can hopefully fix things with Vanessa and also keep tabs on someone that Matt Murdock is involved with. The other thing, and I heard a reviewer say this, but I wanted to expand on it. There is a little bit of me that's sort of like, I know you got to do it for the gravity of the situation, but it would be nice if this was just Foggy and Karen again. Like
Hmm.
it's like I know we have to have time's gone on. I know we have to have the stakes, with different characters, but it just feels like they've substituted out, for that original. But then again, there's also the part of me that says, yeah, but that already happened. There's 3 other seasons of this show. And it's not this show, but it's like that story already took place, you know?
Yeah.
And
So
yeah,
let me ask you a question,
yeah,
and I'm going back to a conversation that we had yesterday about this.
sure. Being Saturday.
Do you think we're going to see Foggy again?
Yeah, listen, I I think the stuff about that actor, I forget the actor's name, dude from Mighty Ducks and this. You can help me out with the
Uh,
IMDb. I think the stuff about him potentially being in more than one season, right there.
Eldon Henson.
Alan Henson, thank you. Lends me to believe that like no one's really gone per sure per se, but then again, I think to myself, yeah, but depending on what they do with Matt in this season, I may not want him to come back. Like I sort of, if he becomes like a changed man and all that or something like that. But then again, in the robes gallery of Matt Murdock is the Hand and the Fist, the mystical ninja people. Like, Stick and him and others and Elektra are sworn to defeat them, and because they are really want world domination. So they dabbled with that in season 2 of Daredevil, which was one of the reasons I didn't like about it. I thought they spent way too much time like with the confusing relationship that Elektra and Matt had, because in the comics it felt almost forced. Like, okay, we got to have Elektra in season 2 because like that's Matt's girlfriend from college. It's like, yeah, or like how about they meet in this show? Like that would be better. But no, they kind of showed the backstory and the stuff like that. Not to get too sidetracked. I think there's a high possibility that we could have Foggy back somehow, or maybe some way somehow he faked his death or something like that, because that has happened with people in Matt's circle before. Hence the whole idea of trust and the
Hmm.
fact that he doesn't have many friends, and so yes, I do think we could see that. I also could say, yeah, it'd be kind of nice if we didn't though. you know,
Yeah,
I just
that's
think
fair.
I just think it's a weird move to have both of those actors back if they weren't really going to be like a part of this, a part of this. You canonized all the stuff that happened with them in the past, and Karen's in San Francisco, Foggy's dead. Like, I don't know. I think there's more story to tell with them.
Hmm.
So yeah, all in all, I'm loving this so far. I Daredevil's all the way back. Like I said, that scream at the end of episode 2, I felt that.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely I'm here for this
when
style and
when do we hit the situation where Daredevil and Kingpin are fully back? Both.
ooh, ooh.
That's my question to you.
Yeah, I definitely think that like we're gonna have a bit of a slow burn, and then I like your theory that like Fisk is gonna be trying to stay on the narrow or on like mostly right side as mayor, and then something's gonna happen, and then he's gonna go full kingpin towards the end of the season.
I hate to say it because I've always liked her as a thing. I don't think maybe anything's gonna happen to her. If anything happens with Vanessa, he will snap right in half.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's
I think
yeah. I was like, if they do anything to her in any way, shape, or form, they will. Because one of the scariest scenes in the first season of Daredevil, and I'll go again, spoilers for it, whatever. But when when and straight up, this needs to be mentioned. It's established that Ben, the journalist from season 1 of Daredevil, his what, a niece is the
yeah.
woman on the street doing the BB review, like the BB story, whatever. Fisk knows exactly who he is, and I didn't know. I was like, "There's got to be a connection here." And then when he said that name, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right." Because Karen in the first season goes and finds Fisk's mom, and then Ben protects Karen's identity by saying it was really him who went to go visit Fisk's mom,
Mhm.
and then Kingpin just beats him to death, basically. And I was like, "Yeah, that was like a line that it's like I remember when I first saw Daredevil, I'm like, yeah, that's a line. He's gonna die right here. Like this is it." And his funeral's at the beginning of the finale of season 1. And I remember that, and I was like, man, that was a really heavy beat. But that was also like, all right, I really hate Kingpin now. I really hate him now. I'm sick of this man. So, um, but yeah, that's one of those things that the second you go, he doesn't have very many people close to him. Something happens that's people close to him. Well, that'll do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, a bit of a longer show today. That's all I got, Kasen. You any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I mean, while we've recorded, there's two pieces of news that have occurred.
Go ahead.
The first is Devontae Adams is signing with the Rams.
Okay.
Uh, and then so he's signing with the Rams
So he goes back to California.
for 2 years, 46 million. And then Josh Allen is signing a contract extension, and that is going to be 6 years, $330 million with 250 million guaranteed.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
so
I'm,
he now takes the crown from Deshaun Watson with the largest guaranteed contract.
I really liked how I really liked what Shefty, I think, was the one who the night he won MVP, which is a thing that happened. since our last show. No, it was before our last show. I think it was before.
Yeah, yeah, it was
It was before
before.
the
Yeah.
Super Bowl. I don't know if I mentioned or whatever. Shefty said something to the effect of there was a stipulation in Josh Allen's contract to say that if he won NFL MVP, he got an extra like X amount $1 million or something like that. And Shefty said something to the effect of, "Okay, so my man's just paid for his own wedding." It's like
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, he already could do that, guys, but yeah, big time. Um, so did you say is he the highest paid quarterback now? Is that like the
I mean, I would imagine. I mean,
every time
it's
that one of those comes out, I assume they're the next highest pay. I mean, I don't know if it's as big as the Mahomes contract, but it's essentially the same. I mean,
I
yeah.
mean, well, it's 55. It averages out to 55 a year.
Okay,
So I don't know. I mean, but it's 250 million guaranteed, which is the largest guarantee. So
cool. Well, hey, good move for the Bills. And again, I'm on the record saying that as long as he's on the Bills, their window's not totally closed. Um, I'm saying, Casen, the blueprint to beat the Chiefs is there. It's
yeah,
there.
it's there. It's there.
It's there. So
No, the blueprint for the Chiefs or to the blueprint to beat the Chiefs is to just give all of their wide receivers keys to cars.
no, don't. We're
And,
not getting into that. No, we're not getting into that. All right, all right, all right. Look, hey, this was fun. I don't think I'm telling you right now. I don't know if we'll be back here next week. You're getting this on a Monday.
yeah.
Hopefully, I can. Hopefully we can do that early sometime this following week. We hope this sustains you for that. But we'll be back to talk about Daredevil and things of that nature. And it is, of course, March. Kason, this is March, so
Yeah.
we will talk about what happens in that regard. But appreciate you all. Until then, this is Kellan.
This is Casen.
And we will see you, as always, at the next stop.